this now. And now this, yeah. All righty. So can you all see my screen? Okay. So I cannot hear you or see you. So if you have any questions or anything, please use the chat box. And, you know, Celeste is here. She can always reply to the questions as well. Because as I said, she knows a lot about the Rhone Valley. Celeste, I'm going to open your mic and, you know, let me know when you're ready to open the camera as well.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so great to hear from you, Celeste. It's been a while.
It's been a long time. It has been.
Okay, so let me see how I can make you a presenter as well. Promote to panelist. Okay, you just got a promotion, Celeste. So try to open your camera.
Okay, let me, yeah, I gotta take that off. There we go.
Oh my gosh, that is a background. Okay, so that is a background.
Yeah, so I've got my little Rhone area back here. So that's why I've put it so that you can't really see the lines, but that's all Rhone.
Okay, so.
And I'm drinking, I just opened a Condrieu.
Nice.
So we're gonna open that since we're gonna start with that. So I just opened a Condrieu.
Okay. So yes, guys, I guess, you know, we'll have to do a little bit of visit to Celeste.
That's right.
Wine room soon. Alrighty, so let me start with the Rhone Valley webinar. Welcome, my name is Alessandra Esteves. So, you know, I know most of you know me. So I am the founder and director of wine education for Florida Wine Academy here in Miami. I have many qualifications in wine. The most recent qualification that I'm trying to achieve is the Master of Wine. So I am a Master of Wine candidate. I passed the first year, so the stage 1. Now I'm looking to sit the stage 2 next June. And, you know, from there, a few years until I finish. But I have the diploma in wine and spirits, which is the level 4 of the WSET. I have a Champagne master level, the French wine scholar, certified specialist of wine, master of Rioja. So, and I teach a lot of the classes for Florida Wine Academy, okay? If you don't know about us, so these are all the certifications that we currently teach. Oh, so I'm missing Spanish wine scholar in here because we teach, you know, Spanish wine scholar, French wine scholar, all the WSET levels and sake as well. So we teach all of this. We have, you know, a team of educators, which are great. So Nicole Ramos is one of them. Celeste Bailey is another one. Guillermo Acedo, which is my husband and partner. He teaches sake. So we always have a lot of fun webinars and fun things for you guys, okay? And I want to start right away, you know, locating Rhone on a map, and then we go from there. So Rhone Valley, so first of all, Rhone Valley, it is in France, okay? It is a little bit south of France, and we are talking about parallel 45th north, which is almost as Oregon, Willamette Valley in Oregon, okay? This area is still a kind of like, you know, moderate continental climate area, and we are going to talk about climate in a second, but we have less vintage variation than Burgundy or Bordeaux. So it is easier to buy wines from this region, and, you know, you get the quality and the guaranteed quality that you want from this region. Okay, so if you see here on the map, so Rhone goes from, the northern Rhone goes from the cities of Vienne to Valence in here. Lyon, it is just a couple of miles north in here of Cote-Rotie. And then down to the south from Montélimar all the way into Nîmes or Avignon is where you have the southern Rhone, okay? And in here is already the Mediterranean Sea, which will have great influence, especially in the southern Rhone, okay? So that is, you know, the location so you guys can see. Have you been to the Rhone Valley? Have you visited some vineyards there? I know some guys have. So Sam, was in Condrieu last year, correct, Sam? When, you know, we were allowed to travel, when life was different, right? Yeah, okay. So,
Oh, beautiful.
yeah, so the Rhone Valley is just, you know, this breathtaking experience. And yeah, so, and I wanted to use for this presentation a lot of pictures so we could almost, you know, feel to be there or go there. But the north and the south are completely different, okay? So first of all, the northern Rhone, moderate continental climate, very steep vineyards. Look at those vineyards in here. Granite soils mostly. And we have about, you know, 2,100 hours of sunshine every year, okay? Hand harvest is mostly what they do because of all these very steep slopes. Southern Rhone, on the other hand, we have a Mediterranean climate. Remember, we are closer to the Mediterranean Sea. Vineyards can be flat in here. We do have rocky soils and, you know, galets, which is this very round stones, was what we find in good vineyards in Chateauneuf-du-Pape. Southern Rhone has a huge influence from the Mistral wind and, you know, more hours of sun. And in here, we can do some machine harvest, especially for lower end wines, or hand harvest for finer wines. So a little bit of everything, okay? But very different characteristics, very dramatic type of scenery in the Northern Rhone. The Southern Rhone is still very dramatic too. And so just before I move on, Celeste, I remember when you visit the Rhone, you know, a few years ago, you were telling me about the Mistral. So can you talk to them a little bit and explain what is this wind?
Yes, so the Mistral is a famous wind that starts literally up in the Northern Sea and then works its way down through the river valley. So in the Northern Rhone, the wind sort of follows along the riverside, and because the vines are planted on these slopes, yes, there's impact, but because of the slope protection and the aspect of which the vines are planted, there's a little bit less impact than when you get to the Southern Rhone. You flatten out a little bit. So the vines in the south are much more exposed to this very, very powerful wind. I mean, it will get tropical storms, sustained 60-mile-per-hour winds. It's not unheard of to have that for 3 to 4 days in a row. They say it typically blows that when it starts to blow, it takes about 3 or 4 days for it to calm down. So it's very, very powerful. And as a result, that's why this bottom picture, you see these vines that are sort of stubby looking, the gobelet planting, because it keeps the vines from being exposed too much to the wind. It keeps it close to the ground. So different types of plantings, whereas the north, you see the trellising more and the sort of the teepee-like structure, so the vines grow up, not so much in the south, to protect the grapes and the plants from this it can be quite ferocious wind.
Yeah, producers in the Rhone, they say that the Mistral is horrible and a blessing at the same time, because, you know, of course, it blows out everything, but it avoids humidity and fungal diseases. Right. So it keeps vines very dry, which is, you know, a good thing for diseases and fungus. So that is why it is kind of easier to do some organic in the Rhone because of the wind. But yes, Celeste is right. 60 miles per hour, that is a very strong wind. It is almost hurricane force winds. Yeah. So true. Okay. Hi, Antonio. Hi, Fernanda. Welcome, guys. I just saw you join. We are just starting right now. All right. So the grapes also are very different, because in the Northern Rhone, we have 4 grapes only. So Syrah is the only red grape in the Northern Rhone, and it was born here, okay? And then we have Viognier, Marsanne, and Roussanne, which are white grapes planted in here. And in the Southern Rhone, on the contrary, we have 27 different grapes. with, you know, names that we cannot remember. And Grenache is the most important one, and Grenache thrives in this kind of dry, sunny weather. But we do have Syrah, Mourvèdre, and Cinsault as part of the blend, okay? So it is always a blended wine in the south most of the time, whereas in the north, you easily have, you know, 100% Syrah and 100% Viognier, like the Condrieu we are just about to taste, okay? So, and just, you know, quick numbers in here. So 96,000 acres. The northern Rhone represents only 4% of all of that. So see how, you know, the difference between north and south is huge. And then we have about 6,000 growers, okay? Most of what is produced in Rhone is red, so 86%. There is a little bit of rosé, especially in Tavel, which is, you know, fantastic, delicious wine that we have tasted many times before, and only 5% is white. So because of that, we will begin right away by tasting Condrieu, okay? So I'm gonna pour my wine because I was, you know, waiting to pour the wine so it doesn't get too warm. So we have this sun Cosme, and this is, you know, Condrieu is a tiny region producing wines with 100% Viognier, rare and expensive wines, okay? So kind of medium acidity for Viognier, and all these aromas of violets, stone fruits like peaches and apricots, floral cream is one of the best white wines in the world. Have you all tasted Condrieu before, or is this the first time? Because I want to know the reactions, you know, to the wine. So let me put in here for the producer. And meanwhile, so if you want to see, so now I'm going to put the needle of the corvin inside the cork. And let me see if I can put my glass over here. I put a little bit of air. And then I can pour from the bottle without removing the cork. And whenever I'm ready, I can just stop. And then, you know, I'll remove the device and I have my wine ready in here. Okay, so Deborah says it is her first time tasting Condrieu, and she has Guigal, which is an excellent producer as well. So, yeah, all right. So Celeste, you want to talk about your wine first, and then we'll talk about...
Yeah, sure. So I'm drinking a 2016 Yves Guillerand Condrieu with it's from the Lit Doux of Vernon. And I mean, for me, Viognier, this region in particular, is very floral and perfumed and full of stone fruit. I mean, it's very ripe on the nose for me, extremely ripe. Peach, apricot, very ripe fruit. And a lot of, you can almost smell the creaminess of it, right? So it's, you know, it's going to be full-bodied basically when you, just by virtue of the nose, you can almost sense it's going to be a full-bodied experience. You can smell the oak, which is, it's an interesting region because they do use oak. Even though it's a grape that's very floral and perfumed, normally you would say, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't use oak, but they do use oak here. So it adds a lot of dimension to the wine. And they're very, very luscious, and that's what I'm smelling. I get a lot of the stone, the oak, MLF, just like you have here. It's the same, I think, you know, in this region, it's very, very, you know, very similar producer to producer.
Yeah, so very interesting what Celeste says, because, you know, it is the same thing we are smelling in our glass in here. For those of you who have the Sun Cosme Condrieu 2017, so this bottle is 100% Viognier, full malolactic fermentation. For those of you who have never heard about malolactic fermentation, is a process that winemakers use to soften the acidity. And this process can create the buttery notes, like you see in California Chardonnay, or in this case, more creamy notes, okay? So then this wine had lees aging. So that means when the yeast, who's responsible for the fermentation, dies, you know, this wine was on the lees for a few months to get this texture on the palate and this kind of brioche biscuit type of notes, and then the oak aging. So it is a wine that has the floral, has, you know, all the aromas of apricots and peaches, but then you have all of this aromas of cream, brioche, biscuit, vanilla on top of it. So it gets to a very complex wine, okay? 5,000 bottles produced of this wine, extremely rare because the region is tiny, and that is why the price is $83 for a white wine, okay? From Viognier, right? If you say $83 for a Chardonnay from a high-end place, people pay for it, but who pays for a Viognier if they don't know what is Condrieu? So let me know, guys, on the chat, what your feelings, what do you think about this wine? If you think it is good, very good, or excellent. So let me know how you feel about this wine.
It's sort of like a, you know, for me, it's like a Premier Cru Pouligny-Montrachet, except now we've gone into a different grape where you have the added dimensions of the floral notes, right? So you typically would get in with the, you know, Premier Cru or Grand Cru, if you can get the privilege to drink one of those, a lot of the stone fruits still. But here now you've got this floral component. So it adds like another dimension that you wouldn't typically see in a Burgundian wine. So it's kind of unique that way. Yeah.
It's funny that, so John says it's delicious, and I agree. And yes, floral and complex. Condrieu is one of those wines that whenever we are tasting for level 3 classes, people say it is outstanding. Yeah. Because, you know, the wine is very integrated and super elegant and refined. So I agree with that. And in this case, it is 14% alcohol. So, and I say, you know, the wine is super balanced. So Deborah says, long and luscious finish, that is delicious. And Andrew is saying long-lasting bitter notes or tannins. Yes, you're right, Andrew. This is from the oak aging. I guess this wine is very new. So 2017 is the current vintage. It just has been on the market. So probably needs, you know, a few more months to integrate. And then remember, I don't know if you're having something with it, but, you know, to taste the wine without any food, it is also difficult. It is the first wine of the day, at least for me. I don't know if you had any wines before. So all of that will impact the way we taste. But I agree with you. There is some bitter finish or tannins, but that is because of the oak. 20% new oak for this wine is quite a lot. Yeah. So yes, you know, just try it with food or later, you know, let's taste the reds and you go back to it and reassess. But I agree, there is some bitterness in here. All righty, so with that, I will let you guys taste a little bit longer, and meanwhile, I'll start theory for the second wine. And now we are in Crozes-Hermitage, okay? So we are heading south in the Rhône Valley, and I decided to put here this map so we could understand a little bit of the region, okay? So this region is famous for Hermitage, which is, you know, the most famous appellation. So let me show you on the map. So you have the river Rhone, okay? Now we are to the other side of the river. And Terroir in here, it is the village or the city. And then you have the hill of Hermitage, which is this area in purple, okay? So in here, you know, it is about 130 hectares only, small vineyards, tiny producers, very high quality wines, prices from $200 and up. And then you have Crozes-Hermitage, which is around the Hermitage. So it is all these vineyards in light purple that you can see to the north, in the middle, you know, to the side and everything. So because of that, there is a lot of variation in Crozes-Hermitage. Some producers can really do, you know, a fantastic wine. Some producers not so much, okay? Because this is a region of moderate continental climate, the Hermitage in here is all looking south. So it has, you know, maximum sun exposure. Crozes-Hermitage can have some vineyards looking north or west. So it is not the prime time. But what is very interesting is that, you know, in here we have Syrah with 15% Marsanne-Roussanne, and the soils are varied as well. Granite with a little bit of sand and loess. So there's a lot of variation, okay? So for that, you need to have a top producer, okay? So before we go into the wine, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about this next producer, which is Jean-Louis Chave. And what is fascinating, so, you know, he has a horrible website. In fact, you know, this is how you see the website. You try to click, it doesn't go in or anything. But the family has established in 1481. So let me repeat this, you know, because 1481, it's, you know, America wasn't even discovered back then, and the guy was making wine. So they are now the 16th generation of winemakers, and they began their story in Saint Joseph, which is just across the river. And nowadays, you know, they're very famous for the Hermitage wines, and of course, you know, for the whole lineup, because they have a very traditional approach. So yes, you know, a very long tradition. It is almost the Frescobaldis in Italy. They are too young compared to this, right? Because 1481, it is way too much. And so the whole reason that I brought this wine in here, of course, to showcase, you know, an entry-level wine of a top producer, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the Hermitage. And it was Celeste that actually asked me for a Hermitage. And so Celeste, can you tell them a little bit about, you know, what is behind this Hermitage, or why is this famous?
Well, you've talked about it. It's the heritage. They're probably one of the first producers there. In fact, I think the Chave family actually has a house on Hermitage on the other side, where the vines are not grown. So on the off side, and they're, I think, the only family that lives there on the hill. It's not really a mountain; it's a hill. So. You know, there's just a lot of history with them. They've been producing incredible wine for centuries. They are, by you know, leaps and bounds, the most famous producer of this AOC. So it's if you're a collector, it's Chave is like one of the greatest, you know, wines you can have in your collection. I also know that they produce, and I've had some of their Saint Joseph. He's famous for, I think his family originated from there, and he goes in and he buys plots of land in Saint Joseph, not the expanded Saint Joseph. Saint Joseph grew enormously in the 80s and 90s, like most regions where the AOC boundaries were increased. He goes in and only buys sort of the classic Saint Joseph regions. So you know you're getting really top quality when you see Chave Saint Joseph, which is going to be a fraction of the cost of a Hermitage. So if you want to do something a little less than Hermitage, the Saint Josephs are outstanding. So it's just the name and the brand that they have for centuries kept alive and well. And it's one of those wines I don't yet have in my collection, but hopefully one day Alessandra will make that happen for me. So I can't say enough accolades about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all the biodynamic, he doesn't use any chemicals. He was doing this decades before anyone made it a thing. He was sort of one of the first to do that, and not because it was something that he needed to do. It was something he wanted to do because he knows it's better for the grapes and the end product. So he was certainly one of the pioneers of all of that.
Yeah. So just to give you guys an idea, we do have the Chave Saint-Joseph 2016 in stock at 305 Wines. It costs $89. So for a Saint-Joseph, because you can find Saint-Josephs at 25.
Yeah.
So, you know, his price is higher, but the quality is, it's something, you know, he's really respected, as Celeste says. So this is a family that has history in there. They are very traditional in the way of winemaking, but it is one of the top producers. So that is why I wanted to showcase this, because you have to know, you know, if you know Rhone, you have to know the name Chave as well.
I think they are considered the predominant producer for Hermitage and Saint-Joseph. I don't think you can, and you know, got Guigal and others, but Chave is like in you know, in many people's opinions, the best. So
yeah. So Andrew is saying that he did a Chave wine tasting at Wine Watch.
Oh, nice.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh, I'm sure that was incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Andrew, we are all fans of Wine Watch in here. So, you know, they do a lot of amazing tastings. I keep on sending Andy, you know, you're kidding me, you're doing this?
Yeah, I know.
Not a 10, but you know, so he does some very unique tastings. Yeah. Alrighty, so Jean-Louis Chave Sélection Silene, oh no, it's Silene Crozes-Hermitage, okay, and that is 2018, so brand new, 100% Syrah, okay. Remember that he could blend with Marsanne and Roussanne, but he chose to make an 100% Syrah. His way of making wine is very traditional, and I'm super excited to taste Guigal, because Guigal is later, because Guigal is considered to be one of the modernists. And in here, we'll see a very traditional guy, okay? So traditional farming, very low yields, you know, full ripeness, minimal manipulation. And then he aged this wine for 15 to 18 months in barrique, which is a lot. And the wine costs $33, okay? So let's see about this wine. Go ahead, smell the wine and taste, and let me know what you can find. So first, it is a very deep color, right? So Syrah as a grape has very thick skins, so it can bring some very concentrated wines. Oh, this is beautiful. So very interesting is that, you know, one of the things about Hermitage is that people say it has this blue fruit or black fruit, right? So thinking about blueberries or, you know, black currants, but also it has this other thing about bacon or bacon fat. And I can smell that in this wine. There is definitely fruit, but there is something else, which is kind of this savory characteristic. So let's see on the palate. This is so good. So yes, tons of black fruits. It's almost like a blueberry pie, very ripe fruits. In the finish, you have all these black pepper. Remember that Syrah is one of the varieties that has, you know, a ton of black pepper. So is asking medium tannins, medium body. Kind of. Of course, this is not a Hermitage or a, you know, Cote-Rotie that will have higher tannins, but I can feel them at the back in here in my cheeks. I do feel the tannins. So maybe medium plus tannins. The wine is not, you know, super powerful and super full body. Of course, as Crozes-Hermitage, this is an entry-level wine. It should be ready to drink now. So, and let me check the alcohol level. 14.5. Oh, this is so balanced. I didn't feel the alcohol burning. Did you guys? Yeah. So very good wine. It is. Yeah, dangerous wine. Exactly. So the wine is so balanced. I guess all of this black fruit, it is, you know, balanced. So yeah, beautiful. So Antonio is asking how long it could age. You know, if the winemaker puts this into 18 months in barriques, that shows something that, you know, of course you can drink the wine now, but you can age a little bit. I wouldn't say, you know, not 30 years, but 8 to 10 years, easily. This wine can age for a few years, okay? And Andrew is saying spicy quality, yes, because you have this spiciness from Syrah, which is the black pepper, some licorice, and then the oak is adding some spices as well. So think about nutmeg and yeah, and clove. So it's beautiful. Oh gosh, I want to have I don't know, ribs or, you know, some meat.
Lamb.
Of that.
Lamb. I love lamb with the Syrah.
Yeah. So John says it is dangerous good. I agree. So guys, by the way, you could, you know, when you use the chat box, send the message to all panelists and attendees so everybody can see the message. Otherwise, it is just me seeing them. Okay, so whenever you want to share with everybody, it is easier for us to see. Okay. Okay, so I think it is my first time tasting this Silene 2018, and I have to say I'm impressed. $33. I think the wine is delicious. So what do you guys think?
So Alessandra, the Silene is a cuvee name, right? It's not. Yeah, it's not a single vineyard. It's just probably blends. Like he's picking barrels and blending.
Yeah. Okay. He has a little bit of a negociant business as well. So yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so Deborah has the Guigal Crozes-Hermitage and it has the bacon. Yes. So you're having a whole lineup of Guigal, Deborah. I love that. Guigal is such a great producer. And we have used it in the past for classes. It was always a hit because people loved it. So yes, prices are very reasonable. Saul said he would buy it again for sure. Great. All right. All righty. So ready to go to now the big powerful guys. Make sure you have them in your glass. Okay. So I did pour my wines, the next two wines in big glasses. So you see, I was using, you know, just the Riedel glass, traditional one. Now I'm using Zalto glass, which I think it is better. See the size, the difference in the size, because I think these wines need air, okay? And also very important is when you're pouring wine, make sure you don't over pour, okay? You can repeat, the wine is at your house, right? So just pour a little bit so you can have a lot of air, you know, so these wines can breathe because they are very young, okay? So Cote-Rotie is one of my favorite appellations in the Rhone. So please excuse if I'm too excited about it, but I just think it is, you know, amazing wines and an amazing place. So Cote-Rotie is, you know, the very north, so it is the northernmost appellation in the Rhone Valley. Syrah in here can be blended with 20% Viognier, but most of the producers use only 3, 4, 5%, okay, if they use. Long aging potential, super high quality. And in here, the Syrah will have this very gamey, leathery kind of animal type of aroma, which makes for a very classic area for Syrah. Okay, so in the picture, you can see a vineyard in the Cote-Rotie from Guigal. So that is what we are talking about now. So vineyards are, you know, on slopes, very steep slopes. Slopes can be, you know, can have the gradient as high as 60%. So super steep slopes, and you have to build terraces. And all these terraces have, you know, a couple of rows of vine, 2, 3, 4 rows of vine. So everything has to be done by hand. It is very complicated, extremely difficult as viticulture, but, you know, makes for incredible wines. I wanted to show you this map because, you know, I wanted to make this very geeky. So excuse my geekiness. So in here, so the Rhone River, okay, we are looking to the right bank of it. For the Rhone, different than Bordeaux, we look to the river from north to south. So this is the right bank. And Cote-Rotie, which translates to baked slope. So Rotie is roasted, Cote is slope, so baked slope, roasted slope, receives a lot of sun, okay? So plenty of sun. And there are 2 areas, mainly, or sub-regions in the Cote-Rotie. So one is called Côte Brune, and the other one is Côte Blonde, okay? So now you can imagine that one is the brunette and the other one is the blonde, right? So legend says that, you know, a father had 2 daughters, and so he named this after the daughters. But the Côte Brune, so first of all, the soils in here are schist type of soils, and they are dark in color. Okay, so there's why Côte Brune. But also this kind of schist soils, we can find those soils in Priorat or in the Douro Valley. So let me ask you a question. Are wines from Priorat and the Douro Valley, are they powerful or are they, you know, light and elegant? What do you guys think? Celeste, say.
They're incredibly potent.
Yeah. So super powerful wine, okay? Rich and powerful, exactly. So, so they say that the vines and Syrah grown in Côte Brune with this soils will be super powerful, okay? So for the brunettes over here, yes, you were powerful. Now, the Côte Blonde has more limestone calcareous type of soils with a little bit of granite. And these are very white soils. So it gives wines that are more elegant and refined. And so, you know, there is why they're blonde. Okay, so yes, brunettes are powerful, blondes are refined. If we combine them all together, we have the perfect wine. Okay, so the one that we are tasting from Guigal, it is Brune and Blonde de Guigal. So you can actually see it on the label. It says Blonde and Brune de Guigal. And you can see that as a labeling term, okay? Now, Guigal is very famous in here, okay? He's famous because of this wine, but he's famous because of the Lala wines. There are a couple of vineyards in those areas that aren't super famous, and he bottles the vineyard individually. So one is called La Landon, which is right over here in the Côte Brune. The other one is La Tourque, which is again in the Côte Brune. And the other one is La Mouline, which I couldn't find in here, but it is almost, you know, right next, I think it is, yeah, where it says Moulin. In here, it is very next to the town of D'Ampuis. So all of this single vineyards, Cote-Rotie, La Landon, La Tourque, La Mouline, they are, you know, wines that retail for prices like $300, $400. They are very small production, but incredibly famous and powerful. So have you heard about these wines? Have you tasted any of them, Celeste?
The Lalas, I have some. I haven't. They're young, so they're resting to mature. But yes, I do have a few of them. And Guigal, I mean, he's the known producer in this region. And I would just say, I would add a little bit to what you're saying, because I want everyone to know that when you see the Cote Blanc or Cote Brune on your bottle, you're getting the best of Cote-Rotie. Because what happened in the 80s and 90s, just like everywhere else, the AOC expanded its boundaries to the plateau of the slope. And this plateau doesn't get the sun. The yields are much higher, meaning they're not as concentrated in their flavors. And they don't produce the quality of the grapes that you get on the Cote Brune and the Cote Blanc. So when you see Cote Brune and Cote Blanc on a bottle, that means you're getting the best of Cote-Rotie. Typically, when you just see Cote-Rotie, that means you're getting a little bit of the plateau grape mixed with some of the slope. So when you are getting something that says these, either one or both, it is a superior bottle of wine. So just so you're aware of that.
Yeah. Yes.
L'Alandon Rôti from Delas. Yes, Delas is another big producer in all of Northern Rhone. They negotiant and producer, yes.
Yeah, amazing wines as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very good wines, and I agree with Celeste. So I always think that this Guigal delivers so much for the price as well. And I wanted to show you a picture of the Chateau D'Ampuis from Guigal. So this is where you go when you visit them. So, you know, just for you to have in mind for your next trip, if you plan that for, I don't know, next year or so. So they bought this chateau in D'Ampuis, renovated them, and nowadays you have the tasting rooms in here. So it is, you know, overlooking the river, incredibly beautiful. And to the backside, you can see the vineyards and how steep they are. So it is, you know, a beautiful place, beautiful, beautiful place for you to visit. And the wines are amazing too, okay? So let's go ahead and taste the Guigal Cote-Rotie Brune et Blonde. This is 2017. I'm going to talk about this vintage a little later. It was a good vintage. Okay, so we, in the past few years, the vintages in the Rhone Valley have been good. This, in this case, is 96% Syrah, 4% Viognier, okay? So he does the traditional blending of the two grapes, co-fermenting them. And in here, like you can see, the Cote Blanc, it is, you know, limestone soil, very steep. And the Cote Brune is where we have schist, and the soil very rich in iron oxide. So that is why the soil looks, you know, darker in color when you see it, okay? 36 months in oak barrels, 50% new oak. So Guigal is considered to be, you know, one of the modern producers that uses a lot of new oak, that has, you know, these wines that are rich and powerful and fruity. So very different than, for instance, Chave that we were just talking about. So Guigal, yes, it is, you know, more, yeah, riper and fruitier styles of wine, okay? $86. So go ahead and taste the wine. Let me know what you smell and taste. This is beautiful. So again, it is kind of, every time I'm tasting Cote-Rotie, I feel that I'm almost smelling the soil. It's like smelling granite or smelling, you know, the schist, this type after a rain. So it's very kind of mineral type of wine. Oh my, this is so delicious. So let me describe the wine to you, Celeste, as you're not tasting this one.
Yeah.
But it has kind of a little bit of black fruit and red fruit. So making the wine very complex. And then of course, you know, super spicy again, a lot of peppery notes. You have this kind of whetstone type of minerality. Long finish. I think the oak, you know, you can smell the vanilla and everything, but it's really well integrated in here. And I'm not bothered by the tannins in this wine. I think everything kind of, it is balanced together. So
yeah, so the Viognier is probably helping a little bit with the edge there on the tannin. It's typically a Cote-Rotie. You know, it's so young, would be very edgy. So yeah, the Viognier, the 4%, even though it's a very small amount, it does, I think, balance out that tannin a tiny bit as a young wine. So that's interesting that you can distinguish the difference there.
yeah, yeah, true. And also the months in oak barrels, I think the 36 must be wrong. I got this from a technical sheet, but if we do the math, you know, this would be still in barrels. So maybe it is a little less than that, but in any case, it is a very long aging, maybe 24 to close to 30 months in oak, and that will as well soften the tannins a little bit. So yes, really savory type of wine, and yeah, spicy, savory, kind of leathery. It is too young to be gamey, but so delicious.
And over 10, 20 years, that bottle is going to morph into an incredible experience with all the tertiary notes that will develop, and really incredible.
Yeah, I agree. In 10 years time, you know, this is going to be so much better and so good. This is the newest vintage. We were tasting 2016 until very recently. So yeah, it's the brand new vintage on the market. So this has a great aging potential. So guys, talk to us. What do you think about the wine? Are you tasting all of them tonight or just a few of them? So I do recommend this Guigal if you want to open it and, you know, serve it. Please decant this wine. You need a few hours decanting, 2 hours at least. And then again, for the pairing, you know, let's think about some meat and big food with this.
And it'll probably even be better tomorrow, right? These are the wines that usually, once you open them, if you don't finish the bottle, you're in for a treat for day 2.
Yeah.
Just because they're so big.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. So Antonio is saying that it's delicious, super balanced. I agree.
Oh, good. Someone decanted 2 of the wines.
Okay. Nice.
Oh, yeah. Going to wine jail. Fantaside. Yeah.
So,
guilty.
Yeah, I know. So, you know, funny enough, I was, so we did a Rhone masterclass last year at the same time of the year, and we were tasting 2005, 2003, and so on. Of course, it is easier to you know, get the bottles, 1 bottle of each wine for older wines. I could not get older bottles of wine to all of you, so we are tasting the new vintages. But I agree, Sam, you know, put this bottle to rest, let it rest. In a few years' time, you know, go back to it and taste it. But it's just showing the potential for, you know, the region, the producer, the vintage, okay? So Andrew added a view telegraph. Oh boy, so you have to invite us. It is too much wine to be, you know, just drank alone. So yeah, it's fantastic wines.
I need food.
Yeah, and you definitely need food. I agree. So yes, and if you're, you know, looking for something more vegetarian, portobello mushrooms, like roasted. So yes, kind of the savory notes would be a good thing as well. Yeah, this is beautiful. It is going to get, you know, even better. So the wine costs $86, and the price, you know, start from here, but you get this incredible quality, and the reason for the high price, it is because of you know, the tiny region. Okay. Alrighty, so let's move on to the Southern Rhone. Okay. So Southern Rhone is, you know, a very different feeling. Than it is warmer. It is where you see, you know, it gets closer to the sea, and you see a little bit more of this Provençal, Southern France type of way of life. So it is extremely beautiful. I just wanted to, you know, go into a little bit of history that I think for this region is extremely important, okay? So winemaking in the Rhone Valley dates back to more than 2,500 years. And of course, you know, it was the Greeks who introduced the viticulture in here with the Muscat grape in the 6th century BC. The Romans also had, you know, a hand in here. And also, you know, then in the more in the south, the Phocians. So all of this contributed to the viticulture and winemaking in the regions. Now, what was extremely important was when the popes moved their residency to Avignon. Because from 1309 to 1376, we had 7 French popes that governed the Catholic Church from here. And then, you know, being based in Avignon, these wines became famous because it was the wines that the Pope drank, right? I think, you know, Celeste, you might want to talk into this, that you had certain classes of wine for certain classes of, you know, the bishops had one wine, the Pope had another one, and then, you know, all of this culminated to 1936. The foundation of Chateauneuf-du-Pape was the first AOC in France. So it's a part of the Rhone that has a lot of very rich history.
Right. Yeah, no, it's steeped in history, and as you said, that was one of the first AOCs right out of the box. In fact, the AOC was sort of founded in this region. A gentleman there, a lawyer by training, actually decided to lobby for AOC rules with respect for wine. Right? They had already done that for cheese. And he's like, well, what about wine? Why can't we do that and have regulations for wine? And then you have history made. So a very historical region.
Yeah. And so let me go in here. So Chateauneuf-du-Pape, the translation is the new castle of the Pope, okay? And that symbol you find, you know, in a lot of the bottles. You always, so Beaucastel has their own engraving. Can we call this engraving?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but most of the bottles in Chateauneuf-du-Pape have some kind of engraving in here to, you know, to tell you that it is the official wine from the Pope, okay? Because this is the new castle of the Pope. They have the residency in there. So yes, this is the official bottle from the Pope.
So this is another producer, and it's like a double sword.
Yeah.
Which is what you see. So it's just another. So you can always tell Chateauneuf because they do always put that sort of etching on the bottle. It's very traditional. Right.
Is this Domaine de la Charbonnière? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So Chateauneuf is the largest cru in Southern Rhone. 93% red, 7% white. There is white Chateauneuf-du-Pape, and 13 red grape varieties allowed for the red wines in here. Soils are varied, but the best soils are Gallet soils. If we were having this class in person at the Florida Wine Academy, you know, Celeste brought us gallets from Chateauneuf, So you see that, you know, the round stone, you know, washed away by rivers. And so it is super interesting. And we can actually touch all of this in there. So they have also limestone, sandstone type of soils. Training has to be goblet training. So all of this bush vines very close to the ground because of the Mistral winds, like we talked before. Okay, so the Mistral has a greater impact in here. So therefore, we are looking to bush vines closer to the ground, you know, closer to the stones. And Celeste, can you talk a little bit about, you know, what is the effect of the stones in these vines?
Yeah, so in the growing season, the wind starts to blow pretty hard. You know, it blows every day. And certain days you get really high winds, but it does start to really cool down the vineyards in Chateauneuf around 4 o'clock. I remember when I was staying there for about 3 weeks, every day at 4 o'clock, the wind started to come through. So it really decreases the temperature of all of the vineyards. So what these rocks do is they absorb all this heat at night, and they're quite hot. In fact, I know of someone that actually picked one up in the heat of the day, and it blistered their hand. That's how hot these galets get. So they get very hot, and as a result, they allow for the further ripening, even as the sun is set, because they've absorbed all this heat. They're radiating that heat after the sun is gone, to continue the ripening process. So there is some benefit, you know, as the Mistral is cooling things down, the heat from the rocks nonetheless allows the continual ripening, which is really critical for particularly Grenache, which is a later ripening grape. So it's really key to getting that particular varietal ripened. It's very instrumental.
True. Yeah. And I wanted to show you this from Chateauneuf-du-Pape. So, you know, it is the geology and the terroirs of Chateauneuf-du-Pape. So a very famous terroir, or a very famous piece of land in Chateauneuf-du-Pape is La Crau, right here. And you see that the galettes are not everywhere. They are in specific places, okay? So if you want to look for galets and for top vineyards, you have to find them, because, you know, other than the galets, you can see that you have multiple of soils. So you have, you know, sand, which is number 3 in here. Then you have, you know, number 1, which is calcareous limestone type of soil. So all of these Chateauneufs will have different tastings as well. So most of the producers will blend fruit from all of them, okay? But then we have certain producers that bottle by vineyards or by, you know, plot. So names like La Crau, La Solitude, sorry. These are all very famous names, okay? Beaucastel. So these are all famous names because they have, you know, a lot of these galets type of stones more than anything else. And I find this, you know, to be really cool. I wish they had one translated to English, but it, you know, for me, every bottle, I kind of want to look, okay, and see where are the grapes coming from. So I find, you know, to be extremely cool what they did. And this, you know, it is the Castle in here. You can see it is Chateauneuf-du-Pape, okay? So yes, to both sides you have, you know, vineyards with a little bit of everything, okay?
And then
so one
Rayos is in the sort of the red clay, right? They're Rayos,
yeah,
famous producer there.
Yeah, it is a great producer as well. Yeah, exactly. So Chateau Rayas, yes, it is a great producer, but of course, you know, he's probably blending fruit from multiple parcels in here, okay? And with that, we go into Beaucastel. And, you know, before we taste and discuss the wine, I wanted to talk a little bit about the family and the appellation. And I think Celeste has a few stories about this producer. So, you know, Famille Perrin, they are extremely famous in this region, very traditional as well, and they have been around for a lot of time. They, you know, are famous because of Chateau de Beaucastel. Nowadays, they are famous because they did Chateau Miraval with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. And by the way, they just announced a new champagne from Brad Pitt for $300 a bottle. And I know that the Perrin family is kind of pairing with Pierre Peters in Champagne to produce that champagne. So what is, you know, very interesting about Famille Perrin is that they have wines from $10 a bottle to, you know, a couple of $100 a bottle. And I think there is consistent quality throughout. They have a Côte Rhone that we use for some classes at the Florida Wine Academy at the $10 range. And the wine is just delicious. You know, it is, for the price, it is great. So Celeste, what can you tell us about Beaucastel and Famille Perrin? Because I know you have, you know, some stories.
Yeah, so yeah, I've been there a couple of times, and I've been fortunate to get to go on a tour of their facility. And they really do an incredible job of you know, production and making sure that their wines are consistently good year in and year out. I mean, I will say that I've never been disappointed with a bottle of Beaucastel. It doesn't matter what vintage. You in the southern Rhone, because you have pretty favorable weather, the vintage variation isn't as great as what you may get in maybe the northern Rhone, and particularly in places like Bourgogne, where you get great vintage variation. But so they are consistently producing incredible wines year after year. And one of the reasons that they're able to do that is they have spent an enormous amount of money investing in a top-notch winery. Their Southern Rhone is known as having issues with Brett and Isis. I don't know, Alessandra, you want to get into that kind of geeky detail, but Brett is considered a fault to the extent it's too much in a wine. It's a fault that gives you that horse and the animal-like smell, and sometimes it's too much, and it is considered a fault. There are other people like Robert Parker, who I find it sort of like, he likes a little bit of Brett, and some people do. I like a little Brett in the wine as well. But there's a problem in the Southern Rhone because the weather is so warm that it is conducive for this bacteria, Brett, to find its way into wineries without, and unless you take measures, it will permeate your wines. And I think Beaucastel was one of the first to recognize that they needed to control this, because if not, then all of their wines were just going to be bready and you're not going to have this beautiful fruit. So they built a top notch. They closed their winery for off season for a period of time, redid their whole winery. They actually pasteurize the wine before it goes into fermentation, which is allowed under the AOC rules. But I'm not sure all the wineries are doing that. So they really take this very seriously. And as a result, that's why year in, year out, you have consistently good, fruity wine out of this producer. I can't say that about many of the other Southern Rhone producers that I've had. So they are, I think, far and away, given the volume that they produce, one of, if not the best producer out there. I also like the fact that they lean heavily on Mourvedre, which adds the gamey, leathery sort of element as this wine develops. A lot of producers lean more heavily on Grenache, but they typically have somewhere between 30 and 40% Mourvedre in their Chateauneuf-du-Pape, which I like. So that's another reason I'm sort of fond of them. was a little probably too much for everybody. I'm sorry, but I'm very passionate about this producer.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So one of the fun things about Beaucastel is that they do use 13 different grape varieties.
Yeah.
So you can see here on the breakdown, so Grenache is only 30%, and Mourvèdre, so is this kind of meaty, gamey type of grape that Celeste was talking about, it is another 30%. And from that, we have Syrah and Cunoise, and then 10% of all of these grapes, which include Vaccarès, Terret Noir, Muscadin, Claret, Picpoul, Picardin, Bourboulin, Roussanne, and Cinsault. So some of the grapes in here are white, like Roussanne, Claret, Picpoul. Some are red, but all of this is what I see is gives the wine a lot of complexity. So it is just, you know, when you're cooking and making a sauce, if you add salt, okay, your sauce is good. But if you add a little bit of pepper and then maybe some rosemary, some, I don't know, oregano, so you're creating more complexity and making, you know, a better food. And that is what they do with the wines. So I think it is, you know, some producers in Chateauneuf are doing almost 100% Grenache. A lot of them have a very high 70–80% part of the blend is Grenache. And in this case, Beaucastel, it is very traditional in this way of using everything. 2017 is a vintage to be remembered because it was the driest year in 30 years, very small yields, a lot of climatic hazards, okay? The vintage is very good, so it is still a very good vintage, but it's just, you know, there is less of it. So I remember when I received Beaucastel this year, they offered me the Beaucastel Chateauneuf-du-Pape white. They had only, I think, 1 or 2 cases for Florida. So I took all of them, and, you know, one people here in the class bought most of it. But
Gee,
because, you know,
who that is.
you know who that is, right? So yeah, Mr. Chateauneuf bought, you know, almost all of it. Because yes, it is, you know, first, it is all very rare. Then 2017 is a tiny production. So, so we have all of that combined, okay? What I can smell from the wine in here. So, so first of all, it's a clean wine, right? So sometimes you do smell wines from the Southern Rhone, and, you know, like Celeste was saying, you smell this barnyard type of aromas. In here, the wine is clean on the nose. So a lot of red fruits, a lot of red berries. So super delicious. Then you have, you know, the peppery, spicy type of notes that Syrah is bringing in here as well. Oh, it's so good. Guys, what do you think about the wine? And let me look quickly into the text sheet in here. So, because I want to see the percentage of oak, if they say something. Yeah, they say oak foudres. So, you know, the big oak barrels for a year before being bottled. Yeah. So again, these wines, these guys are not looking into, you know, having a lot of new oak.
No, it's all, there's no barrique. You don't see barrique there. It's all the big foudre aging. They don't use barrique, and that's fairly standard in Southern Rhone. You don't see barrique. You see the big 500-liter foudres that have been there for a long time. They're old. They're neutral. They're not adding oak. So that's a sort of a difference between the Southern and the Rhone, right, Alessandra, where you see barrique in the Northern Rhone, but then when you get to the Southern Rhone, you typically don't see a lot of that. And some of that is due to the fact that Grenache really doesn't do well in oak. It oxidizes very quickly. So, you know, you don't use a lot of new oak, if any. in the southern Rhone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So what Celeste just said is, so we have two very different varietals. So Syrah can be very reductive. So that means it needs air, right? So you're going to use oak barrels because oak is porous and then the air will go in. In the case of Grenache, you want to protect Grenache against oxidation. So, stainless steel is very common, if not concrete tanks. And if you're going to use oak, you use the big oak barrels so that the surface of contact between wine and barrel is less, so you have less oxidation. Otherwise, the color for a Grenache, you lose that very fast, and also the aromas, it becomes oxidized. So you have to take care, how you treat Grenache. But yeah, I think Celeste, the wine is 2017, but it's so delicious. Oh. And it is so ready to drink now. So.
But it will get better.
It will.
I mean, these wines age for a long time. You can easily put these 15 years away and they're going to be beautiful. So.
True. And I guess the white grapes in here are compensating for the acidity of Grenache, because acidity in Grenache tends to be kind of moderate. And in here, the wine is refreshing. It has this fresh palate with a lot of fruits, and then you have kind of this green herbs. So I think it is really great. Valerie, you raise your hand. You want to ask a question or something? You can type on the chat box. So guys, for you tasting Beaucastel, if this was your first time, let me know. And let me know what you think about the wine. And another fun fact about Beaucastel. So last year, we had, a few bottles of the 2016 left. I don't know, like 10 bottles or so. And suddenly we start to get calls. Oh, do you have Beaucastel 2016? How many bottles? Okay, I want to get it. And, so in 2 hours, we got about 10 calls about Beaucastel. And then I said, okay, this is weird. Nobody ever asked about Beaucastel, and suddenly everybody's asking about it. So Beaucastel was in the top 10 of Wine Spectator last year with the 2016 vintage. So that was the day that Beaucastel, and I think it was number 4 or 5 last year. So as soon as it went, and the price was up, obviously people start calling because we had the cheaper price or the price that was fair. So
before that, yeah, pre-announcement price.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Andrew is saying.
Okay, he's got his Vue Telegraph. Is that a Le Croix Vue Telegraph? Because they do have a single vineyard out of there, or is it just the blend, Andrew? It'll have Le Croix on the bottle.
Yeah, so yes, I agree. It is rich, it is fruity, it is, at the same time it is spicy and savory. So yeah, probably has La Croix on the bottom.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, but the Beaucastel, so it's interesting, when I was last over there, Beaucastel, being of the size and capacity that they are, they actually age their varietals separately. Like we were talking about how Grenache needs to be put in stainless or concrete and Syrah needs the wood. So they do age first and then they blend. There are smaller producers that will not do that, and they co-ferment the varietals and then age them together. So you really have this dichotomy of types of production. And it's interesting to meet one of the smaller producers that does the more traditional way of co-fermenting and then aging everything together. But Beaucastel has, you know, given their volume of production and all, I've realized that their product is superior if they can age the grapes differently and then blend. And I think that they have made a statement by doing it that way, because in and out, like I said, every year they're just really a leader in the region. So it is an interesting approach.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So, you know, co-fermenting and blending all of this seems easy, but it's not that easy, because some of the grapes, you know, will ripen in October or September, some of them in October, some of them in November. If you want to co-ferment, basically what you get is some grapes are going to be unripe. So, you know, the tannins will not be ready. And by, you know, doing the fermentation separately, you're kind of taking, you know, what is best from each grape. And then when it's ready, you put in the final blend. So yes, I agree with you that, you know, they do it beautifully. This wine is amazing, amazing wine. Guys, any other, you know, comments about Beaucastel? If this was your first time trying it, let us know what you think. Because I'm really impressed. You know, I mean, all of the wines in here and the lineup are amazing wines, but I think this one is, it's, you know, it is ready to drink now if you want. It can age, you know, easily another 10 to 15 years if you like. So yeah, and it is very good. And Celeste, what is your favorite appellation from, you know, this that we tasted? So if you have to pick one.
Yeah, I mean, I am a Chateauneuf queen. I love Northern Rhone wines, but for me, we have a lot more Chateauneuf, because to your point, you can open a 2017 and it's drinkable now. It's going to get better and develop more tertiary gamey notes for sure, but you don't have to worry about the tannins ripping your face off, right? And you don't even really have to decant. I mean, you can. It's going to get some air into it and get things going a little more quickly. But the Chateauneuf, doesn't matter the producer, they're just more drinkable wines. So it just makes sense. You know, it's an easier approachable wine than the Northern Rhones, although I think Northern Rhones have their place. When we're grilling lamb, I'm going to go pull a Cote-Rotie or a Cornas or a Crozes-Hermitage, Saint-Joseph, because it's going to give more muscle to your meal. But all in all, I think we really love Chateauneuf.
Okay. Any favorites, guys, for tonight? So the price for the Beaucastel, so just for you to have in mind, is $79. So yes, Andrew was commenting that the markup in restaurants is hideous for Beaucastel, and I agree. Yeah. You know, restaurants do have to make money on wines, so that is why they do it. But I think, yes, for you to buy a bottle, drink at home, it is kind of, you know, not a super expensive wine, but the quality is great.
Yeah, corkage fee. Don't give the restaurant all that money. Yeah. Take your bottle.
Take your bottle, yeah. Okay, so John says that his favorite is Guigal Cote-Rotie. I can see that. It is an excellent wine.
Beautiful Cote-Rotie. Got the Cote Blanc and the Cote Brune blended. That's no plateau grapes. I mean, I can't even imagine what you guys are tasting. I'm so jealous.
I have to send you the wines next time, Celeste.
Yeah, it's going to be an incredible bottle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Antonio, yes, Guigal is great. I agree. You know, and depending on what you have for eating, it's great. Sun Cosme was great find, says Samantha. So go back and retaste, you know, the Sun Cosme if you still have it, just for the love of education, right? So to see if now the Condrieu has opened up and if the tannins are a little less, or, you know, there's less bitterness. This is so delicious now. So Valerie, corkage fee in Florida is about $30 if you bring your own bottle, but the markup that that Andrew was saying can be up to, you know, 300%. So yes. Now Andrew tastes more the mallow. Absolutely, it's like, you know, peaches and cream, or, you know, peach ice cream. It is it's very creamy now. Okay, Saul said that he had only 2, the Condrieu and Crozes-Hermitage. Okay, taste the Cote-Rotie tomorrow. Yes, make sure to open the bottle, you know, ahead of time, let it breathe, and then have the perfect pairing. You'll love it. All right, guys. So if you have any other questions, let us know. Thank you so much for joining us for this Rhone webinar. And we'll have, you know, as upcoming webinars, we have Bodegas Veronia in a few weeks, and that is a free webinar if you want to join us. Then we'll have Wines of Alsace with Nicole. We will be back with Miami Champagne Week in October, and I am thinking about organizing a couple of Bordeaux, again, higher end and, you know, fun Bordeaux tasting. And yeah, Celeste will be back as well. She teaches level 2, and, you know, maybe Celeste can be back with Burgundy before the end of the year. That'd be cool, Celeste.
That'd be great. Would love to do that. Love, yeah. You know, it's my favorite region. So yes, please.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, John, Saul, Deborah, Andrew. Nice to meet you. And all right. See you guys very soon. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Celeste. That was, you know, great that you could participate and help me in the webinar. I really appreciate it.
Glad to be back.
Yeah.
Glad to be back.
Exactly. All right. Thank you, Antonio, Fernanda. Thank you, Valerie. All right, guys. Have a great night.